Okay, mind the noise. I think it is Monday, April 24th, 2023. It's like 2:50, let me see, it's 2:50 Eastern Standard Time. Been on Twitter a little bit this morning, having some fun. I'm like a little bit of philosophy, a little bit of trolling, a little bit of more trolling, watching the projection, seeing what the average person, how reactionary they are, which is fun, and how quickly they all move to violence, which is also fun, and how panicky everybody's getting. So I want to talk a little bit of philosophy about this. I think I'm going to actually upload this video today when I get back home, because this is a good video for everybody. It's relevant. This will be a starter. If you like this video, follow my Twitter. When I get 500, I'm going to start posting videos, and I'll post them on Twitter if I have the 500 on Twitter. I want to do YouTube and some other things eventually, philosophy show. And I made a bunch of videos that I haven't posted, but this one seems relevant enough to post, and it's a good feeler for everybody. But what's hilarious, what's going on right now, for those in the know that know the know, that on 420, we just leave 420 alone. We won't talk about all the things that happened on 420 in history. But on 420, Elon removed the verification marks. So, get everybody caught up a little bit. So he purchases Twitter. A bunch of people quit. Then of those people, plus the people that quit, then he goes through and he starts evaluating, and he fires them. And they're down to about 20% staff now from their original stuff. About 80% of the people are gone. And some people are saying, that's crazy, look, everybody left, it's 20%, he can't make any money. And he's actually, he was quoted as saying, he's like, it comes to find out when you just let people talk and you're trying not to manipulate and have a propaganda machine, you don't need much staff. And this is what just about everybody in the tech industry knew. When Snapchat sold itself for billions of dollars to Instagram, they had like 50 employees tops. So now Twitter has slowly been changing the marks, which is great. I don't know what they all stand for. I think like blue is just people that are verified with their phone number and a credit card. Hopefully to be Web3 in the future, and we could do anonymous transfers of cash through a wallet and maybe even Dogecoin. I think gray is for politicians, and then yellow might be for like journalists or companies or something. I think yellow is for companies. And then Elon's been pretty hilarious. All the companies that are government funded, he's been changing them to like let people know that this is a government entity, that it's a propaganda fake journalist. And like, I think NPR said they refused to tweet until Elon removes the fact that they're a government journalist thing, but that's pretty funny. Anyways, that's not what this video is about. So if you've been on Twitter, which I'm posting on this Twitter, so you're probably gonna find it on Twitter. But if you've been paying attention on Twitter, a lot of the people that have blue check marks that were celebrities are starting to panic. And it kind of makes sense. I totally get it. Some people have gone as far as say like people are going to die because of this. And from an empathetic point of them, putting myself in their shoes, I understand why they feel and think like that. And so let me explain. Twitter was a socialistic company, a class system prior. It was like a Hunger Games online talking point place. It was just high school amplified. And for those of you who don't know, like kindergarten and the public school system is a Prussian school system. You can look it up online. Do an internet search for Prussien, school spelled Schule, because the school that you want is going to be a German, like Prussian pronunciation of the word. But basically it was a way for the government to create soldiers and workers and then elites. So they would pull out the top people, they would make them elites, and they'd make them government people. Everybody else would be trained to either be a soldier or a worker. And that's why you have bells that ring and everything is blocked off and you go from here to here to here to here. Very terrible way to learn, but everything the government does is terrible. Kindergarten is literally a German word. I think it's like flowers of the children or something, I don't know. But it's basically like, you know, I'm assuming that kinder is similar to like starting a fire, so it's maybe like the spark or the first one, but it's a German word. Brought from the Prussian school, they use the same word in Nazi Germany or whatever for their schooling systems that we still use here in the United States today. So anyways, as this class system goes in this socialist society that we live in, and I'll stop here and be philosophical again. Let's define socialism. So if you look at a school book that's a public school book, they'll define the word socialism and have this whole thing, this economic structure and this class system and all these fancy words. But you don't need to know any of that stuff. You don't need to listen to what they're trying to tell you. Just look at the word itself. Social, right here, space, ism. So it's a system, whereas the credit system is the social aspects of it. So think back to, you know, when you were in high school and you had like the jocks and the nerds and the half-bred jocks and nerds and the weak people and the strong people and the teacher and the principal and the class monitors and the hall monitors. Think about how that structure is, where it's not a merit-based thing, it's a time-based thing, you know. So it doesn't matter if you're the best student in class or the worst student in class. It's a year and then you go to the next level, unless you fail back and you weren't good enough. So it's not like, well, you already finished this, so you move forward, but you still need more help, so you stay behind. Everything's very structured, and it's social climbing, and they treat everybody within this thing. So if you climb to the top, you get this dopamine rush. You know, picture gorillas in the mist. I don't know, what's a gorilla? Is it a pack? A pack of gorillas? A troop of gorillas? I don't know. Whatever, a grouping of a herd of gorillas. Picture the top gorilla banging the gorillas below them on the head and getting a dopamine serotonin rush. You got this pyramid of individuals. Well, the Alyssa Milanos of the world and the Jason Alexanders and all those people were getting dopamine rushes, and we're getting to the top of Twitter because they had this social power within the structure of Hollywood. Not because they were liked necessarily, but because they were put there and pushed and propagandized, and you know, oh, you're good at acting, so you must know how to do everything because you're rich, right? But they're just reading lines and scripts and talking points. For the most part, there is some intelligent actors, you know, there's intelligent people in every field, but for the most part, just because you're at the top of an acting field doesn't mean you should be in charge of, you know, a space rocket launch as well. So you had a hierarchy within this, and you had this bubble within that hierarchy where all these blue check marks could talk to other blue check marks and, you know, rise to the top, and you know, you had all these peons and plebs below. But the way you got that check mark was through a verification. The verification process, they claimed, was to tell who you were. And if you were popular enough to go through the verification process, then you get there. However, we learned with Milo Yiannopoulos that they took away his verification when they knew who he was, and they may have even done this to Yi, I can't remember, but they've done this to a few people where they take away their verification. So it's like, what are they, hacked? You don't know that it's them anymore? So no, it has nothing to do with telling you who it was. It was a status symbol. And it meant that in this high school, extrapolation of high school upwards in society, the elites behind in the ivory tower deemed you okay within Twitter, which is the public square, to talk to everybody. And then they made a stupid mistake of digging their heels in. I refuse to support Elon for $8 a month. I can't afford, $120 a year or less to give to Elon to use Twitter. Okay, that's fine. And then he takes their marks away. So now I pay $8 a month after my 90 days. I got on there in November because Elon purchased it. I specifically went back onto a social media thing where I could have some free speech. And I paid for the blue check mark, and at first I wasn't getting much activity, but it wasn't a big deal. But the one thing I was getting was tons of, I don't know, it's hard to tell the difference between a bot, a troll, and just your average stupid person that's been indoctrinated these days. I feel I like to be an optimist, and I like to pretend that they're paid foreign opposition trying to make people feel bad about themselves. But a whole group of people, or accounts I should say, not people, but a whole bunch of accounts start immediately sharing, this motherfucker paid for Twitter, this MF paid for Twitter. And I just like, I'm like a Gandalf here, man. It's like, you're trying to invoke cast shame, but you have no power here. You can't shame me, man. That's a female thing. That's for people that don't have any self-respect, no dignity. That they're part of that collective. You can't shame me out of the collective because I don't care about your goddamn collective, motherfuckers. I care about principles and the truth, and the people that like me, and the people that don't. So you can't shame me. I get that if you have this matriarchal understanding of the world, and there's particular communities, I won't get into that in this particular video, but they're raised by single mothers and sisters, and they're shamed their whole life, and they're trying to get laid, and they can't get laid, and women tell them this, that, and the other thing, so they're constantly placating to this feminine energy, and they get nowhere with it. So all they know is that shame technique. It's shame and blame, shame and blame, shame and blame. And it does work on people within that group. And you can say to me, oh, you don't feel shame. No, like, I have shame, but I'm not going to be shamed. I can't be shamed into doing something. But I have a healthy amount of shame to not do certain things when I go out in the world. So, furthermore, now Twitter is kind of crowdsourced. So as individuals like myself start paying the $8 and we fund it, we have a bigger voice than people that don't fund it. And people are like, oh, you're stupid, you pay for a free service. And it's like, again, it's just shaming, and it shows your ignorance and lack of understanding of how the world works. So I have an extra $8 a month that doesn't even bother me, that I give to Twitter to support Twitter. And when I do that, and if enough people do that, Twitter becomes beholden to me and my $8. All right? If it's free and they have to keep it around, then they have to get advertisers. And when they have to get advertisers, then Twitter becomes beholden to those advertisers and what they want. So it's really hilarious to me when these accounts that are supposedly power to the people, Democrat, oh, it's about the 51% or whatever, try to shame you off of paying for a service that individualizes the power. So if you don't want Twitter, that's fine. Don't pay $8. I don't care. But I actually think it's fun to watch you get butthurt when normal people can get verified, get on there, support something they like, and then kind of make Twitter beholden to them as a collective group where they're using their funds. So in the barrier of entry is very low. It's $8. And it's a merit-based system in an extent where if you have $8, it means that you've done $8 a month worth of work for your fellow man in the real world, and they've rewarded you with that $8. So if I've added at least $8 of value to the world, and then I choose to give that $8 of value to Elon because I think that a month worth of Twitter and having a small say in it, I bet you in the future he'll start having votes through a governance program via Web3 where people can vote on changes based on accounts they have. It'll have to be once they can verify stuff a little bit better, because you can still have multiple accounts right now for $8. So there's still some ways that people can manipulate the algorithm, but that'll be interesting. But make no doubt about it, the people that are upset is because they had a social status, and the social status now is being replaced with a merit-based status in a way, meaning now anybody can pay $8 that they have it. So how do you get $8? You have to add $8 worth of value to your community, and your community gives you that $8, and then you choose where you want to put that $8, and I choose to give it to Twitter because I like the Twitter algorithm, and then I can tweet and have fun with people, and the more people that like it, raise it to the top. Whereas before, you had to be beholden to politicians, or beholden to Hollywood, or beholden to some corporation, or beholden to whatever, in order to get that status to the point where they would even look at your account, and then once they verified it, they were like, you're real, you're fake, you're real, you're fake. We know you are real, but we're going to take away your mark as a status thing and then pretend it's called verified. So this is right in, so with Orwellian doublespeak, and this is a very subtle one, Twitter, Instagram, and all these people, they called it verified for so long, but it wasn't a true verification. It was a mark of approval from the elites that you were given. Now, Twitter is actually closer to a verification in the fact that you need a phone number and a card. And so they're actually saying, let's see a real person here. Let's verify them. Okay, they're actually real. So it's not a status thing. It's actually closer to the term that it was named, which is verified, because it wasn't about verification before. It was about status before. So now people are losing their minds because of the status. All right. So I'm got some things I got to do here. So I got to wrap this up real quick. Let me explain the thing that I said earlier about the women that I saw. It was one woman that was being shared. It could have been multiple people. It could be a fake account or whatever. But why somebody would say people are going to die because of this? Now, if you have a gene set, especially a feminine gene set, you are very beholden to the collective and to the social. So if you go back in time and you look at hunter and gatherers or whatever, it was much more risky to go against the tribe. However, if you were a man and you went against the tribe and you took a big calculated risk and you survived, you were elevated to the top of the tribe for moving it forward. But for the most part throughout history, people that are meeker, that have to use their words and have to get status and have to balance, and women will call it emotional labor, is they're constantly got all this stuff going on in the background, that's a different thing that they're trying to elevate themselves. I wouldn't go as far as to call it like pure manipulation that has a negative connotation to it, but it kind of is a way where they're kind of working the people around them in a way where they're giving and to receive. It's a transactional thing. I'll do a little bit of this, you do a little bit of that, a little bit. Men are very much more raw with it, where it's financial transactions. I'll do this task for you. You pay me this or pay me that. I think it's worth, we'll negotiate. Women, it's more emotional. If I cook for you, which is a bad example now, but if I'm nice to you in public, or I put 5 fire emojis underneath your photo, make sure you put 5 fire emojis under mine. And how come you only put 2 under mine when I put 3 under yours? You're only going to get 2 now. And there's this whole game that they're playing with one another for these social credits. But if you're very dependent on a tribe or very dependent on a structure, and it's a social structure like I mentioned earlier, socialism, then when that structure gets turned up and re-owned and you see it as the biggest platform probably on the planet for communication with individuals, if you see it like that, and it's gone from this social credit where you're at the top to the merit-based thing, your instinctual gene sets now, maybe you won't die, and maybe, you know, your direct descendants aren't going to die, but your gene set now has a tougher time to succeed because now the merit-based gene sets are going to garnish more resources. So it's a direct attack on the resources of individuals. And when people see an attack on their resources, it does, especially if you're coming from a feminine place or a, you know, I don't really want to use the words alpha and beta stuff, but just more of a dependent mindset, a dependent gene set where you're more dependent on the collective. It is going to have the same chemical and biological effect on you as being ostracized from the tribe and not knowing exactly how you're going to get your resources. So if you've been getting your resources by, you know, this social tactic, and all of a sudden it becomes a merit-based tactic, however amount of time you've been building those social skills, they become less valuable. And now the merit-based skills of actual hardcore stuff. The best way to see this in the real world is like that quote where like hard times create soft men and soft men create hard times and vice versa. It's kind of can rotate through like throughout history, where you really have to resort back. Like if you've ever watched Survivor or Battle of the Gender Survivor and Bear Grylls or something, once reality hits the fan, merit-based stuff always goes to the top. And then once you get cushy enough and you put merit in the background so you don't even recognize that it's working, then you start building up the social element, but then the social element takes weight control and it loses track of reality principles, its grounding. And it falls back down, and then you have to rely back on merit again, and vice versa. And unfortunately, in that time frame, there is going to be people that lose resources. Now, it seems to me, and maybe it's just I'm an optimistic person, it seems to me that we have enough safety nets, at least here in the first world countries, where these types of changes are not going to directly kill anybody. They may indirectly kill some people that are propagandized to the point that they begin doing violence. And then it may indirectly affect people a couple generations down the line as far as being able to reproduce, which will create a legacy gene death for individuals that survive on, you know, socialism. One thing that I've been doing, like, to jokingly combat these people, like, this motherfucker's got a blue check mark, is saying, yeah, you're a fat freeloader, you know? Like, so that's fine that you're a fat ass freeloader, but like some of us are in good shape, we're healthy, and we're merit-based, and we survive in a competitive environment. So of course it's going to bother you that, you know, the people that were in charge of your Hunger Games, that were telling you that we'll take care of everything, we're the elites, aren't in power anymore. And it's going to feel like Mad Max to you because you're so dependent on the system that when the system starts falling apart, you don't know what to do because you have no principles or morals. You were waiting for somebody to give you these edicts from the top, these, you know, etched in stone, handed down to you. And you can see it online, and this is why it's so difficult to tell the difference between a troll or an NPC or just a stupid person today, is they say something and it feels like they've just cut and pasted off of, like they have a spreadsheet of talking points and they just cut and paste it, put it into chat. This is maybe what they're doing. They have a list of talking points. They cut and paste it, and they tell ChatGPT to rewrite it, and they cut and paste it onto Twitter. And then they think that they're adding to the conversation, but it's like, I'm not offended, I'm not hurt, I'm not shamed, I'm not nothing, because you've said, and people have said this so many times, it's not a new thought. You're not adding to the discussion. It actually and honestly and truly makes me feel sorrow for these people, because they are so lost and so dependent, and it shows, and I don't think that they can see it. I don't think that they can see how dependent they are. They think that they're independent boss girls, and they think that they're independent, like, college educated and all this stuff. But really, they've just been convinced to be submissive to a system that doesn't give a fuck about them, when you could have been transferring dominance and submissiveness between a voluntary relationship. I have relationships with people in which they know what's going on more than I do, and I have to be in a mentee submissive position to them, and they're the authority at the time. And then vice versa, when I'm in another situation and I'm the authority and I know what's going on, the other person is submissive to me, and it's a voluntary interaction back and forth. When you become dependent and beholden on the system, you fucked yourself, because you've pretty much said, I'm submissive, but you're getting the idea that you're dominant. But when it really comes down to brass tacks, you can't make a move without looking up to the elites and asking them what to do. The joke online, and I'll boil this down a little bit, but it goes beyond women and it goes beyond feminism or whatever. It's all individuals making their own choices. So I don't really want to make this generalization to end the video here, but when somebody's like, well, I'm not going to be married because I'm not going to be submissive to a husband, and then they're in a cubicle for 40 years listening to every word that their boss tells them to do. So you're become submissive. You just don't have any lineage, any kids, no grandkids, no family, no one to show up at your grave when you die, no one to love you. You've just given your submissiveness over to somebody else, and you've gotten no benefits or rewards for it. And it's sad. And it's not just women and feminists. There's plenty of men that do this as well. Although I do think that men, like in the MGTOW movement, for example, handle the solitude and their removal from society a lot better than a female could and do. But as we see this, I'm not even going to get into that aspect of it. I'm going to stick to the Twitter stuff. So, all right, it's fitting. I accidentally wore my blue shirt like I'm verified, but today. But I think this is some food for thought. Let me know, one, should I make more videos like this about philosophy and topics like this? I know this is somewhat political, somewhat philosophical. It's kind of on the branch because I got to get enough people's attention. 2, should I make more of these? 3, comment below some other videos you'd like to hear my perspective on. If you follow me on Twitter, I just like to have fun. Most of the stuff that I don't say is in jest. When I'm messing with people, I'm trying to get them to have fun. I'm having fun. I'm dying laughing. And it's hilarious to watch people that call themselves like professional comedians get triggered, and they don't even make a joke. It's like, make a joke. You're supposed to be a pro comic, man. And if there's anybody on here that should be able to understand humor, it's you. But they're not. They got pushed onto Netflix from the system, and they got a little blue check mark. And now that merit-based is going to start coming back, they're all screwed. It's literally food off their table, which is gene death in the long run, which is why they're going through such a panic. So, all right. I love most of you. Hate the rest of you. Take care.